they aren't equipped properly. So you're trying to really equip them to handle things, from going to the grocery store to handling this, mental, weight of this job. So let me say it. On that same note, Captain, with preparing your men and women for life and being better people, how are you preparing your men and women for handling the mental stresses of the job?
So something at South County that we're doing, and I believe we were the first department to hire Grace and Guidance and have Lona Snell and her team. Her husband was I believe a part-time fireman for us for a while. I didn't know anything about Grace and Guidance. And the more that I talked with Miss Snell about Grace and Guidance and about her, I've sought help in the past, and even in the beginning of this grief journey of trying to, you can go seek therapy and talk to a counselor and stuff, but if you don't relate to them, you're not going to get much out of it. So my first counselor was a British guy over in Kingwood that I went and talked to him, and he'd be like, well, don't do that in the fire service, or don't respond to that call. And I go, well, that's not acceptable. When that bell rings, I got to go do it. So I fired him. I was like, hey, you don't relate to me. I can't open up to you, anything like that. So when Lana came in and I found out that she used to work for Conroe Independent School District as a counselor, which my wife is a first grade teacher for CISD. Her husband's a fireman. I sit here and I go, I can relate to this person. She knows the public service side of it, and then she knows the teacher side of it. Like, she deals with that, and then deals with all the students, which, again, not knowing that, some of these calls involved kids, that she knows, how to deal with that, or how to talk about it, how to open you up about that. So our department brought in Grace and Guidance. And again, I went into it full steam ahead. I needed help. I wanted help. I wasn't happy with who I was, what I was doing. But our department now, our training division has set up a 2 or 3 week orientation. One thing that we're doing or changing is during that orientation, the first day, the rookies come in, our probationary firefighters come in, and all of admin gets to introduce themselves. And I make sure that I introduce myself as Captain Varady. I try to leave my first name out of it. I talk about what I do real quick. It's just a 2-minute conversation real quick, just an introduction of all of our admin. And then throughout those next 2 weeks, I make sure that I walk past them and, make sure they get the title correct. And it's a systematic process of that, captain this, captain that. I talk to them about, I've been here 20 years, and, we joke about my payroll number and stuff. And I'm very proud of that, but, which is 3. I'll bring that up. So whoever's watching this gets to know that I brought that up. During those 2 weeks, though, I make sure that they interact with me as a captain quite a bit. And it isn't look, I'm better than you thing. It's actually building up for the next step, which is during that 2nd or 3rd week, they schedule Miss Snell to come in to give a talk about mental health and all that kind of stuff. So right before her conversation, after 2 weeks of being introduced as a captain, I come in street clothes, literally go change in my office. I put flip-flops on, shorts, a t-shirt. I walk in and everyone's like, Captain. I go, no, not captain. And they're all like, looking at me weird. So I go up to the front of the classroom and I go, everyone pull your chairs up here, get out from behind their desks, all that kind of stuff. And I tell them to come to the center. We sit in a big old semicircle, and I introduce myself as Thomas Varady, because that's all I am. I try to strip away the title, the rank, the respect in rank and all that kind of stuff, because I don't think mental health has titles, and I don't think titles should be addressed. So your fire chief is not your most knowledgeable person on mental health, or could not be your health and safety person may not be your best person to talk to the rookie fireman on mental health. Your rookie fireman or your probationary fireman may be the best person. What one fireman that I talk to may not be the best person for another person to talk to or something. So I come in as Thomas in plain clothes, and I discuss and I talk about and I show that I'm vulnerable, that I'm showing weakness in some people's eyes of, hey, look, I'm emotional. I deal with anxiety. I deal with depression. And here's why. And, you know, a lot of people go, well, it's because you lost your son. Well, no, I think I was dealing with that before I lost my son in the fire service, but I was just putting it in the backpack because that's the right thing to do. You know, you got to be tough. So I sit down in front of these guys and girls, and I go, this is me. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. I know you're 20, 21, 22 years old. You think you're God's gift to the fire service. You're gung-ho. You want to go help people. But at the end of the day, you take off that uniform. And we're all just human beings. And we all have emotions. We all deal with things differently. So the way the fire service dealt with it in the past, my opinion is we have to change that, because we have these young people coming in and we have to mold them into better human beings and teach them those life skills that they weren't taught. And in that is dealing with the emotions that they may come about. And the first 5, 10, 15 years that they're in it, they may not know that they have those emotions. So one of the things South County does is purchases every new probationary fireman Lona Snell's off-duty processing journal. We give that to them for free. The department purchases it, and that's our step, along with grace and guidance, on changing mental health in the fire service. We don't want to lose anybody to suicide or substance abuse or anything like that. So, you know, we took the approach, hey, this is a great group to start with. Let's test the concept. And now we're growing not just probationary firefighters. You know, I've given it away to a couple of veteran firefighters and trying to get that information out there. But it is a hard thing to talk about because the guys that have been in 15, 20 years, my opinion, are still lying to themselves when it doesn't affect them. It's fine. You know, we've had tragedies with firefighters' kids and stuff. In the years that I've had, one of our other firemen that's been there quite a long time has had some challenges when he was off duty. You know, his kid suffered some traumatic injuries and stuff. And while our firefighters are working at other fire departments, they helped another one of our firemen's kids. And I think that they're dealing with it as best as possible. But if they had an off-duty processing journal of, hey, this is the way that I felt during this call. This is telling the story of my emotions or what I was feeling that day. So when you do have something, or it does catch up to you, or if you do recognize some of the warning signs, you know, I talked to a lot of our rookies during that conversation. I go, listen, mental health illness isn't so cut and dried. It's not like you go to your doctor and they just go, look, you have this and this. When you come home from a rough day and you wake up next to your wife, or, you know, you go talk to your wife and you snap at her a little bit. Why? Was it because of the calls that you made and you couldn't, you're starting to overflow? You come home and, you know, you have that one drink, you know, man, I have a drink on my day off. It's not a big deal. And then after a couple of years of doing that, you're up to a 6-pack or a 12-pack. And then every weekend you're drinking. You know, every time you have a discussion with your wife, it turns into a huge fight. And those are the signs that people don't talk about because it's personal. It's home. It's not the fire service. But we're bringing that baggage home and dealing with those things not in healthy ways. We're dealing it, you know, addictions, drugs, porn, sex, substance abuses, and anger, using all these different tools that are unhealthy, no one talks about until it's too late. And that's why we lose so many firemen to suicide and stuff, because it overflows. They don't have the proper outlets or direction to help them, because, like I said, the fire service still thinks a lot of times you should be tough and deal with your emotions and just pack it away. It's fine. It's part of the job.